Studio 5, Utah is known for its beautiful landscapes and majestic mountains, but it's also got a really cool urban vibe. From family portraits to engagement photos, even fun candid shots, photographer Natalie Felt says you can give your shots an urban feel without leaving the state. Great to see you.
Great to see you.
What do you look for then in a good urban photo backdrop?
I like to look for brick buildings, clean lines, colors, texture, all of that, just that fun city feel.
You didn't say graffiti. You didn't say a messy, busy city background. Fair to say you're going for clean.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And the reason is I like my attention to be on the person I'm photographing. And I feel like with graffiti and really busy backgrounds, it kind of takes away from that. So that's something I avoid.
You're going to help us see these potential backdrops with your eye, your talented, trained photography eye. You've got 5 urban spots you would recommend for photography locations. The first one takes us to the heart of Salt Lake City on a darling little street called Pierpont Avenue.
Yes, this is just a few blocks east of the Gateway. And I love it because there is such a huge variety. It's kind of hidden. It's in between 3 and 400 South. So it's kind of hard to find a little bit because it's on the side street. But there is so much variety. The doorways, the brick buildings, it's so fun.
Textured brick. That's beautiful.
It is so fun. The yellow poles are really fun that you see across the street from that. There's so much. You can just walk around and you will not get bored. There is so much to photograph.
Well, and what I love, you're pulling some poppy colors, those rich emerald greens, but yet it's not a blank color wall per se.
Right. Yeah. I do like to have color in my photos, but just not overboard. You know, again, just keeping the focus on the people that you're photographing.
There's a parking garage in downtown, while we're downtown, that you really like for this urban feel.
Yes, this is actually on Pierpont Avenue as well. It's just further east. And I love it. Again, I love the clean background look with this, still with the city vibe. Couple things though with that though you really want to be careful with is shoot later in the day, because if you have all the cars in the parking lot, you know, it's not going to have the same feel to it. So that's something you kind of want to avoid.
Your photo will be littered with license plates. That's never what we want to hang on our wall.
No, not at all. But also with lighting, lighting is super important when you're shooting on the top of a rooftop because there is no big shade. So you really want to shoot like that golden hour in the evening. The cars are going to be gone. That beautiful sunlight's going to be streaming in. Like, it'll be the perfect time to shoot.
Well, there was a lot of concrete in that particular location, a lot of gray cement, and I've heard photographers say that gray sometimes washes out and dulls the skin, and we want those bright, light, vibrant faces. So how do you work with that concrete, work with that gray coloring to make your photos still look alive?
I like to pull the individual away from it a little bit. So if it's in the background, you can still have those pretty skin tones, but if they're right up next, they're back up against it, things like that, then it's going to kind of give it that gray skin tone. So just kind of be aware of your surroundings and things like that. And then also, if you turn around a little bit to the other side of the rooftop, you're going to see all the buildings and the skyline, and that's really pretty too.
And do we have to pay to access this particular location?
No, this specific one's free, and a lot of them are. But you know, you always want to be courteous of the businesses and buildings around, so kind of check ahead of time.
Sure. Draper City Park made your list. What gives this location an urban feel?
So Draper City Park, you usually tend to think of, you know, park, green, trees, things like that. But if you actually go to the west side of the park, by the library, there are so many great spots to choose from. There's cute white brick and anyways, just a bunch of that. It's really fun.
Oh, love that shot. Love that shot. Salt Lake City Library also made your list. Describe this from your photography eye. What makes it a great spot?
Yes, I love this spot because of the windows. The Salt Lake City Library is beautiful and it reflects everything around it. And so the pretty light and the buildings in the background that are reflecting in there is so pretty.
Okay, I think that would be a headache. How can you work around the reflection? Isn't that tricky? Doesn't it make your job a little hard?
You have to be really careful again with the lighting. You don't want to shoot in the middle of the day. And also when you're shooting with reflections, you don't want to stand right in front of your subject because you're going to get yourself in the photo. So you really want to step off to the side and shoot at an angle so you don't see yourself in the photos.
If you don't live near these areas, if you don't live in Salt Lake or near Draper Park, for example, give us a basic overview. What are we looking for in a good urban spot? You mentioned the clean lines.
Yeah, every city is unique and has so much to offer. So I just recommend exploring. Look for old brick buildings, cute doorways, entrances to businesses and things like that. A lot of times, like cute little old Main Street, you know, like in Logan or in Lehigh, you're going to find that look. So just kind of explore.
Now, some of these photos, as we gush and admire over your work, you got by adjusting your shutter speed, I know, on your camera. And we hear photographers talk a lot about shutter speed. What is it exactly, and why is it so important to great photos like the ones we're seeing?
Yeah, so getting to know your camera is going to make a huge difference. Shutter speed is how how fast the shutter in your camera is opening and closing. And so basically that's controlling if your camera, if you're freezing the action, if someone's running and they look kind of frozen and still, or if you want to blur the action and kind of make it more artistic. So it's really important to know what you're working with.
So what suggestions then would you have, Natalie, for a beginner who has this nice camera, really doesn't quite know how to use it? How can you start getting comfortable with that shutter speed and the opportunity you have to play with it?
Yeah, this is so important. I get this all the time. People say to me, I got a camera for Christmas, I don't know how to use it, what do I do? So shutter priority mode will be your friend. That's what you want to focus on. So on a Nikon, you're going to find this option is just a S on the dial. And on a Canon, it's going to be TV. It stands for time value, but it also is shutter speed. And with this, you get to just focus on that one setting, and your camera's going to take care of everything else. So
it will think for you.
Yeah, so it's still going to be a well-composed image, well lit, but then you get to play and explore and, like, you know, try out a fast shutter speed or a slow shutter speed.
When would you want to use a fast shutter speed, for example?
You would want to when kids are playing outside,
running around,
sporting events, maybe a dance recital, anything with a lot of movement. And for urban locations, just again, if you're kind of just running around with that city feel, you're running down the street, you know, if you're doing an engagement couple and they're kind of spinning around, things like that.
Slow shutter speed then?
Slow shutter speed I don't use very much, honestly, but you can have a lot of fun with this. So we shot with the tracks behind us, and we slowed it down. And with slow shutter speed, you definitely want to use a tripod. I used a tripod on these because I didn't want the couple to be blurry, but I wanted the train to be behind.
Oh, those are fun.
So this was shot at 1/25 of a second, a really slow shutter speed, and I just had them hold really still.
So what shutter speed would you recommend then for the average mom out there if they want to move past that standard default dial for, say, your kids just playing on the floor?
Exactly. So my go-to setting is 250 of a second. So that's on your camera, that's 1/250. So that's actually, that's just a really good setting. I'm almost always on that setting, but if your kids are moving around a lot, then I'd move up to maybe 1/500th of a second.
Bump it up. And really quickly on your iPhone, I'm kind of an iPhone camera mom. Is there a way to adjust your shutter speed on that?
Now, I haven't been able to find just on my phone on its own, but there are a lot of apps out there. If you just type in slow shutter speed, I couldn't find any to speed it up, but if you do want to shoot maybe a waterfall or something like that and slow it down, look for there's some free apps. Look for those and kind of play with it.
Great advice and great inspiration. Those photos were beautiful. It's clear you're so talented, so good at what you do. Where can we get more information about your photography business?
So my website's www.nataliefeltphotography.com, and I'm on Instagram as well.
Thanks for the